Hey y'all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Aaron from Fandom Portal. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Today we're talking about the Acolyte episode 5. But first, Aaron, can you tell us about Fandom Portal?
Fandom Portals is a podcast that's starting up in early August. It's a passion project of mine, and it's basically me looking at various different sort of fandoms that the community, threads and on our Instagram ask questions about. I go on a deep dive and I basically answer any questions that the community have. I also go through and do some community interviews if you want a platform to talk about the thing that you love in your fandom, or if you are an expert, or if you're working on a project in your area of your fandom or expertise, then you're welcome to come on and have a chat about that and share your love of everything geeky and nerdy. And basically we're all about curiosity and community, but also with that little bit of celebration as well, because everybody loves the fandoms in their lives. So, and creating that positive sort of space to share everybody's passions. That's what Fandom Portals is about.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love the idea of being optimistic and just sharing the idea of fandom itself and letting people, there's so many times where it's a little easy to maybe dog on something, maybe Justice League or something like that, or whatever, not to pick a name, but that's somebody's favorite. And so it doesn't make anybody feel good when you're doing that. So I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
When is that podcast firing up?
So at the moment we're looking at the start of August, possibly the 10th of August will be our release date. Because at the moment we do have 2 or 3 episodes banked up, but obviously I'd like to get more before we launch, just so we can stay ahead of the curve. And we're still taking requests for interviews and things like that. And I'm also doing some solo hosted episodes as we speak too. So just making sure that prep's there. But August 10th is probably going to be the date, which I think will be August 9th for those people in America. Obviously I'm Australian, so it'll be Australian time, but August 9th for you guys, August 10th for us. So that's the tentative date so far.
There you go. All the links will be in the description, guys, so make sure you follow up on that and follow Fandom Portal on all the social media places, especially Threads and Instagram, and that way you're well aware. And we'll make sure to share it when the actual launches too, so that'll be amazing.
Oh, right. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
I say we, but it's just me.
It takes no time before you start doing that royal we stuff all the time.
Yeah.
We are exhausted from editing videos all day and stuff like that. And it's like the other guys are chilling playing video games. I'm editing videos today.
That's it. That's like your social media voice too. You're just like, we at Fandom Portals or we at Geek Freaks do this. Yeah. No, it's definitely true.
Let's talk about the Acolyte episode 5. We're going to start with you doing the 2-minute rundown on this. Are you ready for that?
I am ready for that.
All right, here we go. And I'm starting the timer now.
Okay, so a group of Jedi go to a planet by the name of Kofar to track down Kelnaka, which is a Wookiee Jedi who is part of 4 or was it 5 of the Jedi that ended up 4 Jedi that basically were responsible for burning down part of Osha and May's home area with the Witches' Coven. And as they were going there to relieve the Kelnaka Wookiee from his post, the Jedi came across a dark-sabered or red-sabered individual dressed in black. And the last scene in episode 4 was him facing down against Osha and blasting all of these Jedi away with his Force powers, obviously being extremely strong in the Force. Now, this episode kicks off with the fallout of that, but slowly shows you the conflict that ensued with a lot of the major characters going toe-to-toe with this mysterious masked figure. Throughout the episode, that masked figure is revealed. Am I allowed to say who it is?
You definitely are, yeah.
Okay, it was revealed to be Qimir, and through the conflict, he also unfortunately fells Yord. So all those members of the Yord Horde are going to be very disappointed. And obviously, Jackie, forgive the insensitivity, but she became a bit of a pincushion. And Master Sol faced off against this individual and was extremely stressed out, I guess, over the darkness that was presented towards him. Qimir obviously talking to him again, saying that he is aware of his darkness and is happy with what he's been doing with his darkness. And he asks Sol the question, are you happy with what you've done with yours? The episode ended with the twins pretty much switching place. And that is the end of my recap. There it is.
I loved that line. That was such a good line right there. It was
Yeah.
so clean.
Oh yeah.
What did you think of the Soul Qimir scenes? Because I felt like we definitely have something in their background, right? What are your thoughts and predictions going forward from that?
Okay, so I think the first time that I saw Soul facing off against him, there was definitely a familiarity in their combat style, indicating to me that they probably do know each other. Not only that, but there was also that shared line, if you remember. Master Soul said something in familiarity against remembering their pupil or remembering their master or something like that. I can't remember the quote exactly, but there was that familiarity there. And that was what stuck with me during their scenes the most. And I think Qimir, I don't know if he harbors some kind of hatred towards Soul, but there was definitely like obviously aggression there. His lightsaber styles during the fighting sequences were obviously a lot more aggressive than Soul's was. I found him very defensive in his manner. Obviously until the end where he was actually stopped mid slice when he was going to actually end Qimir. He was stopped by was it May or Osha that stopped him?
I believe it was Osha.
Osha, yep. Stopped him from decapitating Qimir, and then eventually he was taken away by those light attracted creatures too. But yeah, to summarize, definitely familiar, probably adversarial, may have been Master Padawan before that, or at least part of something to do with the incident on May and Osha's planet as well. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think it could be something to do with that. I think there might be something where he was a Padawan, but it would be odd that Soul doesn't remember him at all. He sees something familiar there, but doesn't remember him. I almost think it might be a younger brother, a family thing, and the way the Jedi we see them work, or the way the rumors of the Jedi work, is that they kind of take kids in the night almost. He could have abandoned the family to become a Jedi, like we saw happen with Osha and May, that vibe. And then we have Qimir left behind with the family, turmoil amongst the family, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Soul gets to have a good life, and we're sitting here scraping the bottom. So I would like to see that, because then we also have two brothers that are Force sensitive, like we have two sisters that are Force sensitive.
Yeah, and there's always that duality with the Force and with the Star Wars stories, isn't there? So that would make sense as well. And that would also be questioning to me, like my question for that is, Soul being the older brother, perhaps he left before Qimir was born, because there does seem to be a bit of an age gap if they are related in that manner as well. Yeah. But yeah, they're also like, you could say they look like they may come from the same family sort of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that they're familiar with each other. Even if they didn't know each other, it would still be like, oh yeah, you feel like my parents, type of thing like that would be.
Yeah. And there's definitely more resentment on Qamir's side than there is on Soul's side. I feel Soul had more of a confusion than a resentment. But then obviously after he watched Qimir sort of slay half of the members of his order, he obviously then developed that sort of resentment too. And I think also for Qimir to go and kill all of the people that were associated with the Soul, it's kind of similar in the way of like lashing out to the people that he chose by leaving him behind, if you know what I mean. Like if that is the case. So Soul went and went with the Jedi and made all these people his brotherhood, leaving his brother, if that is the case, behind, and therefore killing them might have been a bit cathartic for Qimir as well. So, and it will also explain like why he went into that forest area to sort of hunt them down and stop them, and is hell bent on avenging and killing the Jedi associated with the fire on Kofar as well.
There is like a double purpose, right? Because he's really wanting May at that time to be his apprentice, his acolyte. We got the shout out. And so I think there is a level of like, hey, I want you to get revenge. So he might not be as connected to the witch's fire, but he might be using that to like bind himself with May, but knowing at this time I could also take out Soul, because you definitely see a vendetta from him on Soul, but I don't know if he expresses the vendetta so much on Trinity or Kanaka. It might not be there as much.
Yeah, I think was it the test that he was putting May through to end those 4 Jedi. That's what was going on with him and her kind of relationship there? Is that correct?
Yes, but I think it might just be her test mostly, and not so much about him wanting vengeance on them. Just mostly trying to bind, because he says specifically he wants an acolyte that's going to be loyal.
Yeah.
And as soon as May's not loyal, he's like, "All right, I'm dumping you," and it sounds like he's going to be picking up Osha.
So that test that was going on through the first 4 or so episodes of the Acolyte, that was him trying to seek May's loyalty to see how far that she would sort of push it, but also maybe trying to garner a connection, because perhaps he went through a similar loss and she's gone through a similar. That might be something that they're sort of connecting on. But obviously, during that last episode, episode 4, May decided that she didn't want to do that anymore, and obviously, we're looking now at the end of this episode, episode 5, Osha being left behind, and Qimir taking that stance above her. The last scene we saw was him with a hand on her shoulder as she had passed out from her injuries as well.
Yeah.
So,
and then we have May pretending to be Osha. She's sneaking into the Jedi. I have a feeling that this might be everybody's all mad, like, oh wait, how do they not know about the Sith? If she can kill everybody on that ship before it gets back, they don't know about the Sith.
That's exactly right. Well, the only one that knows now would be Sol. Is that correct? That's the only one that's left
Basil.
alive.
Yeah.
Basil. No, nothing bad can happen to Basil.
I want him to escape and like move to a Hawaii planet or something like that.
Exactly.
I need him to be okay.
Yeah, no, he needs to just go and live underground like a wombat and just never come out.
Yeah.
So, or a koala, sleep 20 hours a day. That's fine too.
Yeah.
Just never get caught. Never get caught, Basil. Stay alive. We love you.
He's one of 2 people that know the identity. He actually got that little droid too, so I think we're going to see that droid put back together at some point.
Yep.
One of the less compelling droids, I would say, in Star Wars, but it's getting there.
I agree. He kind of reminds me of it's Pip, I think it's called, but it reminds me of a like a Walkman. I don't know, like some listeners might be old enough to know what a Walkman is, but some that are listening might not.
It's Sony.
Yeah. For those that don't, a Walkman was like a box you put on the side of your leg that you played cassette tapes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely harkens back to one of them. I just like that it also has like a torch component and there's like a swiveling head. Like that's kind of cool in the droid department. And it's like holds the tools and things like that. It's more portable, but it's definitely no R2-D2, I'll tell you that much.
No, it does not have the same personality or something like that, or that can capture a screen, but it is useful.
I do kind of like, before we move on from the droid thing, I kind of like that, like this is obviously set like way before, so maybe the droid technology hasn't developed to what it is, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've seen very many sort of humanoid looking droids as we do in the other ones as well. I don't think I have, at least.
But we do see them in the Old Republic, so they've been around for 1,000 years. So
yeah,
maybe the Jedi
and Hugh Yang,
are
Professor
just
Hugh Yang, he's been around forever. So
forever, yeah.
He's
quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
He's so cool. So speaking back to that confusion of when the 2 are fighting, I think it's important to note that Yord at some point says his fighting style is erratic, kind of everywhere. And the Jedi clearly practice for fighting certain things or whatever in a certain fighting style, while Qimir is clearly using whatever he learned along the ways. And I think it's kind of like a little bit of piecing it all together, which I think is going to harken back to his upbringing and stuff. What are your thoughts on the fighting styles and what we saw with like the lightsaber dueling?
So there was lots of different lightsaber styles throughout this episode that we saw. There was obviously, as we talked about, the defensive style from Sol. As you said, the aggressive sort of style from Qimir, which I think is harkening back to that idea that the Sith sort of fight with their hatred and fight with their feelings, because his moves were definitely a lot more flourishing, and you could tell he was like hacking away with that red lightsaber.
He's going for stabs too, which is something you don't normally see a Jedi pump out right away.
Yeah, exactly. So he was definitely going for death shots, which is obviously very aggressive in its form. There was also the form that we saw Jackie use when she was in trouble. They used the device. Qimir used the device to disable her primary lightsaber, but luckily she had also picked up Kelnaka's lightsaber previous, and then we saw her fighting with 2 lightsabers, holding them. I don't know what the proper term is, but like hilt facing downwards. So she was in the stabbing motion there. So there's that other motion, which is more focused towards the agility sort of side of lightsaber fighting. And then there was obviously like Yord, who was using quite a lot of Force abilities too, and all of them used Force abilities throughout as well. But I think not only is that giving us as viewers a really good view of the different sorts of styles of fighting that Jedi can use through this show, it's also a really great testament when we were saying before we rolled about the second unit director that does all the choreography for the lightsaber work, and the actors that obviously put in the time and training to fight in different manners. Like, there would have been so much rehearsal going into this episode to pull it off in the way that it was done, to show that these lightsaber wielders are actually kind of authentically using the weapon of their trade that they've been training with. And to me, I didn't look at any single one of those fighters and go, that person doesn't really feel at home behind their lightsaber blade. I felt like all of them did a really great job, and the second unit director did a great job with the choreography of it as well.
That was so Simu, you did a great job mentioning this. Simu pointed that out, like, hey, this is all because of this guy. His name is Christopher Clark Cohen. So when you're thinking, like, man, this duel's intense, Christopher Clark Cohen did that. The way that they killed off these characters too, it was again kind of building up these primary protagonists almost. But God, Jackie, when she went down, I was like, wait, is that actually, like, holy cow, that actually, and then when Yord was in that position, you're like, okay, well, if they killed that one, they're going to kill this one. And it was just so matter of fact, throw them to the side. I think it shows the complacency of the Jedi and the relentlessness of the new risen Sith on their way.
Oh, yeah. I think that is extremely true, especially in the manner that Yord was killed. Like, that is a brutal way to go ahead and end somebody. And obviously it was done right in front of Master Sol as well. So maybe that was the intent there, to show that cruelty, but also to show that maliciousness, that intent, that and obviously that superiority is just, he did it with his bare hands kind of thing. Like, it wasn't force power, it wasn't lightsaber, it was bare hands. So he was like, I will beat you with lightsabers, I will beat you with force, and I will even beat you with my bare hands. There's nothing you can do. And like, the way that he just it also showed when he killed Jackie that deceptiveness of the Sith as well. So the fighting style not the fighting style, but when he detached the lightsaber hilt, when Qimir detached the lightsaber hilt and used the pommel of it as almost like a lightsaber dagger and pincushioned her, that was a really sneaky and deceptive sort of move that obviously is not something that the Jedi would have trained for. So it would have been a complete shock to Jackie. It would have been a complete shock to Sol and everybody watching, because nobody would have pulled that sort of technique on them before. They'd have no defenses for it. And obviously she lost her life in the end as a result. So I think it does hint towards that complacency of the Jedi, because throughout the whole time in this Acolyte series, they've always sort of hinted at the fact that the Jedi have pretty much done what they've wanted through the galaxy throughout this time. They've become pretty high in the political sort of standings, and they're guardians of the galaxy, so to think, not to coin another franchise, but the guardians of space. And in this episode, they've basically shown up, to say it plainly. What I have some questions in terms of how Qimir is sort of learning these kinds of techniques and things like that as well. I'm wondering where he sort of learnt it from, or whether the idea of the Sith was around, and obviously he was trained by one. He couldn't have learnt it by himself, but then he now wants a pupil to pass it on as well. So maybe that's been indoctrinated into him through somebody else that's unseen at the moment also. And perhaps it will be revealed later on in the series when and if Qimir actually does fall, there'll be that overshadowing figure that says, okay, he's gone, I'll find a new one, or take on Osha, or take on the apprentice that Qimir had, and that will be the main sort of indication.
Especially with the title Acolyte. You could see him being an acolyte to somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
The rule of two and stuff kicking in. I would love to learn that, like, maybe there was a Sith sect out in the Outer Rim trying to stay quiet, and this young brash guy who has a vendetta is like, no, I'm taking these powers I just learned and venturing out, and which the Sith wouldn't want that to happen, because of course you're going to raise all the alarms. So maybe that's why he's so adamant about killing anybody who sees his face, because he's like, we're trying to still keep all this hidden until we could regain our forces, or maybe not Palpatine at this time. Plagueis is alive, I guess, but maybe. But yeah, so it would be interesting to see if they give us the kind of that backstory we got with May and Osha from episode I think 3. So it would be, this is what I would want to see.
I actually, now after seeing this episode, I know that episode 3 kind of didn't really land too well with a lot of people, judging by what I've seen on socials and things like that. And I think that it may be because perhaps it came too early in the show. But right now, I would really love to see an episode on Qimir's backstory. Like, I would love to go and see how he became the person that he is, how he got indoctrinated into this sort of Sith mentality. And for the record as well, this is the first episode where a character has actually mentioned the Sith. So he actually said, you might call it, you Jedi might call what I'm doing as being a Sith. And it does go to show historically they would have known about the Sith, but they've been extinct or vanished for that long that now this one's emerged and they've been like, okay, and Sol would have sort of clicked onto it as well. But yeah, I think it's definitely moving into the direction of deceit, and also I actually just can't wait to see what happens when Sol realizes that he's actually walking around with May instead of Osha. And I kind of wonder as well, like he's obviously very connected to the Force. Is there a way that the Force sensitive people can say, oh, this energy is actually more like May and more like Osha? Can they identify that? Is it as simple as cutting off your hair and you can be the twin that was there before, like Parent Trap style? That was a little too easy. Yeah. Yeah. Is that what's happening? So, like, I'm actually wondering if he's clued to it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
that would be nice. I would like to think the Soul's a better Jedi than that. Basil can smell the difference. We see that he's smelling and he's like, something's not right.
Exactly.
Again, our boy. So, yeah.
But I think
when she cut her hair, I was kind of like, I know what they're doing, but this feels a little cheap. Like, I know that she's going to try to switch spots now, but like, oh, my hair's cleanly cut, or I don't know. It just felt like we could do better. We were talking about off mic. The twin thing is a little,
it's overdone, and it's kind of rarely done well as well. And I was saying to you as well before we rolled, episode 1, as soon as she was committed, or she was accused of doing the crime, and she swore that she didn't do it, I was like, she's going to have a twin, and obviously she did. So I think it would make more sense to me, and I hope the fandom doesn't go crazy over it, because we hope that we'll see how the story progresses before we kind of judge things about it. But I hope that Master Sol kind of knows that it's May, because they were trying to get her back anyway. So if she's going to walk voluntarily with him back towards his Jedi Order, then he'll let her play along. I hope that's how it goes anyway, in my eyes, because unless they're going to play it off as him being so emotionally distraught, and obviously rightly so, he's the only one to come back out of the 12 or so that went, that it's just not flagging on his radar right now. So I do hope that Sol ends up being okay by the end of this. I hope someone survives. That's all I can say.
I think the only one that's going to survive is whoever the Acolyte is. Honestly, I think we're gonna see that the Jedi probably don't even learn about the Sith in the long run. But that would definitely
absolve Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Which, it's a shame that that's what's in my mind when I'm watching this, because I try to avoid comments in my social media stuff right now.
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievably poisonous. It's unreal how people are so toxic about this. So I just avoid them all. But I know what it's about, and I know it's Ki-Adi-Mundi and stuff
exactly.
Like that. So,
I will say though, there are some very positive ones out there as well that are trying their best to do as we are, and sort of avoid the negative. And that's not us like turning a blind eye towards it, but it's approaching people's opinions and people's feelings about a show as like, that's your opinion, that's okay, kind of thing. It's not like treating someone badly because they like something that you don't. So, and that's the point, like the toxic part that we've all seen through the communities and through this show as well. But I do think this was a pretty strong episode though, personally.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It was fun to watch, and I look forward to using this as an example of what the show can do. I, too, on like the third episode, was not very happy with the third episode myself. I felt like it was too soon, and I would like to have had that like the penultimate episode. But it's amazing how, behind inside baseball on this, guys, but that was our most popular episode, because so many people were like, "Oh, somebody's hating on it. Let's get it. Let's get the listen." And it's like,
Yeah.
that's the stumble. It's not hating on it, you know. But all our clips from it and everything like that are always our bigger ones. It's like that's a shame. People feel that.
No, I think that's like, I think the show, it'll be interesting to watch. I don't know if you've done a rewatch from 1 to 5 all the way through to see if it's a little bit more cohesive throughout. And I think episode 3 won't be as jarring. And I think I said this on social media too. Episode 3 wouldn't have been as jarring if they released episode 4 straight after it as well. Or if somebody watches this in 6 months' time and they watch them all together. I think it would be interesting to see how somebody rates the show after doing that, because obviously through the week you are exposed to lots of different things, whether you want to be or not, and it's hard to go into something and look at it with a completely blank slate to try and form your own opinion on it. And the echo chambers exist, we know that, and I think it would just, if you could sit down and just watch this in one sitting, that's something I would really like to do. I'd just like to analyze it in one sitting, see how it all runs, and just look at it from the point of view of a complete story arc. Because again, we're only seeing 5 episodes right now. That we've still got the conclusion to go in the next following 3. So I'd have to see how that goes.
We know for sure 4 is better because of 5. And so hopefully as a grand total, once it's done, I definitely will be doing that, rewatching it all. I love doing that. Like X-Men 97 was so an already perfect show, but like when you watch it as a whole, you're like, God damn, this is perfect.
I know, yeah. It was like that little bit of dopamine every week, but then once it's all over, you just flood yourself with it like on a weekend. It's good. Yeah.
And
I agree.
They did this really cool feature where you could watch it like nonstop. Once you finished it, you could watch it in marathon mode that didn't have the intros and outros and just was like a bleed through. That's perfect.
Oh, so good. That's lovely. I will say though, I did like seeing when the different characters came in and out. I did like seeing in the intro for X-Men 97 the different sort of intros that came in, like Nightcrawler's one, for example, and shed a tear when Gambit's wasn't there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Just got to talk with him. I'm pretty excited about that interview coming out in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good.
So me and Thomas were both interviewing him together, and we were really like, come on, we know you're coming back. He wasn't too vocal about it.
If you could squeeze that out of him, that would be great. But he wouldn't. He'd be tight-lipped.
Disney was not about to let him talk about that shit, so that was for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I would have loved to see his Google Trends just absolutely skyrocket after episode 5 again. That was episode 5 of 97 when that happened. X-Men 97. It's something about episode 5s, I tell you. Yeah. Just watch the first 5 episodes of a show. That's the secret.
Yeah, it's the Disney machine. Like they have a formula, and they're just going to stick to that formula. I think we can spot it with a lot with Marvel. We're like, okay, this is the episode where we're going to get a reveal. They do like the 3-act structure over an entire season, really. So with this episode, again, I think we're both agreeing that it is a pretty good. If you guys, by the way, just as a quick side note, if you're looking for a more positive place to discuss the Acolyte, to me, I find Threads to be mostly positive.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good place.
I definitely agree as well. Yeah. So your Threads and obviously mine as well, and are seeing these different things through the Star Wars community. And I actually see a lot of people looking for others. They're just like, where are all my positive Star Wars people at? Yeah. so that's good. If you're on Threads, definitely look it up. Use the hashtag Star Wars Threads and you'll find them. They're all waiting for you.
It's a cool platform so far. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So let's wrap this one up. Out of 5, what would you rate this episode?
I think I'd probably rate this. I want to give this a 4, but I'll give it a tentative 3.5.
Yep.
Just because of the grinding of my gears twin themes. I said to you earlier, I'm a twin myself, so anything that sort of has any sort of twin motif, I'm very skeptical and critical of. Yeah. And obviously the swap over for me at the end of the episode, and Sol not being able to sense that that May was there instead of Osha. I hope that it's either him being too traumatized or he's playing along. I hope that happens. But 3.5, action sequences were perfect. The unfortunate deaths gave weight to the show, and the different lightsaber fighting styles. I have to, you know what? I'm going to give it 4 because the absolute credit for the choreography in the fighting was just top tier. I liked it, and the reveal of the villain too. Great. Yeah. What about yourself? What do you give it?
Totally same vibe. I'm that 4, could be 3.5, but and the thing for me is, I know she's trying real hard, but that Amandla Stenberg, who plays May and Osha, especially when she's having a conversation with herself. It feels like she's just reading the script and not really getting the chance to embody the character much.
Yeah, it'd be so difficult to. I don't know if she's acting against a double or just like a mop head with the dreads on the back. I don't know.
Fair.
But there was in this episode, I will say, there was a lot of cuts to back of head looking at the opposite twins. So you could obviously tell they were using a double there. But again, like when you're doing twin things like this and you're using the same actor to play the two parts, she's doing an okay job, I think, throughout the series. But it was very noticeable this episode because they had more dialogue together, I think.
They did, yeah. And that's kind of the hard part, too, is when you end the episode with that part, you're like, end it with him taking out Yord or something like that. Like, end it with a high note so I could go out. I was already very excited about this episode, but that's how you end an episode. So it kind of put a bad taste in your mouth when you're walking away from it. So I am very close to 3.5, but I think I will go a 4 because, man, watching a Sith, the way he pulled that one Jedi onto his sword, kind of Aragon.
Yeah, it was almost like a kebab. He had one and then he got the other. He pulled it straight over. That was good. Oh, man.
I got embarrassed.
Yeah, they did. They needed, they got to go back to their training. Master Yoda will be like cutting his finger at those ones.
Where the hell is young Yoda? I want to,
Oh, man. He's sitting on the Grand Council and he's wiping his hands of all of this. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. It sounds like they don't even really want to tell the Grand Council or the Council what's going on. So I think that's a lot of like why the Sith aren't known in the future, probably.
Yeah. I've actually found that I've read a few of the Legends books, which aren't canon anymore, but even in those books, Yoda's around, but it feels like everybody's like too scared to use him because they know that the backlash will be like, that's not how you use Yoda, or that's not what Yoda should be. So I think everybody's just like, he's there, but we don't want to touch him because it's just it's like a firecracker. It could be a great fireworks display because we've used him and he's awesome, but it also could be like you've blown up the firecracker in your hand and you've lost it because everybody loves Yoda and they don't want to see him misused. So I think that's what's happening here with the Acolyte too. They just don't want to step on the Yoda toes.
That's a great point, and I actually it makes sense almost in canon a little bit because maybe Yoda being on the High Council, being there for a while now, some of the Jedi are like, let's not bother the boss, kind of thing. He's too strong, he's too powerful, too wise. He's going to think we're silly, so.
Yeah. Or he's on a sabbatical or something, sipping margaritas over on like Endor. I don't know.
Loves chilling up by the swamps, man. That's his thing.
Yeah. Going to find his retirement home on Dagobah. It's just that's the planet where I'll exile.
Oh, look at this great pond, just the size for an X-Wing. Yeah, this is a good spot.
Yeah, this is exactly right. I'll put the X-Wing there. My hover will go here. It'll be perfect. I wonder what's happening back at the Jedi Council.
I know. Yeah, he usually feels it when people. Well, I mean, it was Order 66, so he definitely felt that. But maybe he felt something when suddenly, like, oh wow, 8 Jedi just disappeared. That's not great. So maybe we'll see something.
Maybe.
All right, guys, head over to social media. Let us know what you guys thought about this episode. Again, follow Fan Portal. We have all the links in the description. Start clicking around and getting those. Aaron, thank you very much for joining me today, man.
Thanks for having me, Frank. It's been awesome, and I'm really, really happy to be here. It's great to see the Geek Freak stuff all over social media as well. You guys are really positive out there, and you're creating great content. So it's really great to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Of course. I appreciate that. All right, guys, we will see you guys. Next is going to be The Boys coming out tomorrow. And then we have, again, House of the Dragon coming up, which both are amazing as well. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.
See you guys.